It's right there, right? I think so. Let me see if it's connecting. Yep.
10 seconds. Okay, we are now live. Welcome you to WPAT Radio 9:30 a.m. in New York City. We are live to over 30 million homes, and we're really excited today. Please join us on facebook.com/Christian Fellowship Council. And please go to our webpage, which is CFC-Page.com. And please give us a little donation there so that we can be live and we can stay on the air. Now today, I'm very excited. Listen, there's a lot going on in this country. Everybody's aware of it, okay? Unless you've been in the closet, you don't know the difficulties that's going on. In addition to the difficulties going on, it just appears to many people that the government's taking a very active role in trying to control us, doing many little things like mandates, international affairs. It just seems like the rich people are controlling everything. So we have a very key person in our studio today who's running against one of the top politicians in the country, the lead of the Senate, Chuck Schumer. Okay, Chuck Schumer is the head of the Senate because the Democrats have the majority, and we have with us Diane Sare, S-A-R-E, who is running as an independent against him. Please welcome Diane Sare. Hello, Diane. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Okay.
I hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah, go a little closer and speak a little louder, if you could.
Well, the microphone's right here in my ear, actually. I don't need to go closer. I'll just speak louder. Is that better?
Yeah, just put it, if you can even put it louder on your computer to the max, makes the volume go up as high as you can. So
I see. Okay.
And I want to show you on Zoom text where we're at, where we're live, so we can go there. So you're the star of the show here. We're on to 3:30. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to put you on as the face. This is very interesting to me. There's a lot I'm sure you want to talk about. I am ready and prepared to show your website whenever you want, but please introduce yourself and give us a quick bio.
Sure. So I am an independent candidate. I'm running as a LaRouche independent candidate for U.S. Senate. I'll be on the November 8th midterm election ballot challenging Chuck Schumer. I am a 32-year associate of the late Lyndon LaRouche, who I'm sure many of your listeners are familiar with. He was a real fighter, ran for president 8 times. He worked with Ronald Reagan on the Strategic Defense Initiative. He's showing a rally I had not far from your studio here on Wall Street. And I have run for office before, actually in New Jersey, but I'm running now in New York. I live in New York against Schumer because Schumer is the spokesperson, or I should say enforcer in the Senate for everything that is destroying the United States, namely the intelligence agencies that President Trump wanted to reorganize when Schumer threatened him over that, and Wall Street in particular. So that now, is Diane, why I'm running. And also,
what I understand about Schumer is that if you're a Democrat and you're not in line, he'll make sure that you get in line.
That's his job, exactly.
And how does he do that?
Well, I think his job is to get anyone in line. I mean, when Donald Trump, a newly inaugurated, said that he wanted to reorganize the intelligence agencies, and I think that was actually General Michael Flynn's idea, because he saw how we had been lied to for all these wars. Schumer went on the Rachel Maddow show and said, that's a stupid idea. The intelligence agencies have 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you. And if you look at what they unleashed against President Trump, and I'm very familiar with this because they had a similar witch hunt against Lyndon LaRouche, even in a way more damaging. LaRouche was never even allowed to come near becoming president, and he spent 5 years in prison as a result. So what Schumer deploys is blackmail, bribes, whatever, to get the agenda through of his controllers, and they are certainly not in the interest of the United States.
Okay, really interesting. So what he's doing is, what is this title again? Lead Senate? What do they call it? It's the
Senate Majority Leader, Senate Majority Leader.
So he's the leader of the Senate. He sets the agenda. He makes all the other soldiers stay in line. He's a key person. Does he represent New York? I mean, does he represent the people of New York, in your opinion?
No, he doesn't represent the people of New York or the people of the United States. You know, the role of being a senator, it's not like the House of Representatives where it's apportioned by population, right? It's the Senate is apportioned by state. There's 2 senators for every state. It's a 6-year term. The Senate is tasked with many things relating to foreign policy and also, as both houses are, the budget, et cetera. And Schumer does not. Look at what he's doing right now around the situation with regard to Ukraine.
Well, why don't you tell what is he doing?
He is insisting on incredible sanctions against Russia, which are really backfiring. They're hurting us much more than they're hurting Russia. And he never was he's defending a bunch of Nazis in Ukraine. I mean, we're in this situation because Obama and Biden overthrew the elected government of Ukraine in a coup in 2014. And that was funded in part by George Soros. It was funded by the CIA through their new front group called the National Endowment for Democracy. And it is not an exaggeration. You have groups, I'm sure your listeners are familiar with the Azov battalion that still run around waving swastikas, C-14, the Svoboda Party, a bunch of white supremacists. They, in Odessa, committed a hideous massacre against Russian speakers who objected to the coup. They herded people inside of a building, boarded it up, shot people who tried to jump out the windows and set it on fire and burned people to death. So this is what Schumer is protecting right now. And President Putin said, look, Russia has a security concern. One, Ukraine cannot join NATO. We were promised when the Berlin Wall came down, James Baker III, and that's true, and many people have corroborated it, told Gorbachev that the United States, that NATO would not expand. He said, we will not move 1 inch. Well, not only has NATO not moved 1 inch, NATO moved 1,000 kilometers. It added 14 new nations to NATO, an explicit violation of what we had told the Russians that we were going to do. And he said another red line is if Ukraine develops a nuclear bomb. And you can think of the reaction of Kennedy when the Soviet Union was putting nuclear missiles in Cuba. He was prepared to risk World War III. There's a certain balance of power
that
sane leaders don't upset.
Diane, I want to talk about that because...
You want to go ahead?
When Trump is in power, the media was going insane. Trump is going to start World War III. He's going to start war. People are crying, screaming. It's going to be the end of the world. Now, Trump's gone. Biden's in there. It's like they want World War III. It's like they're pushing. I don't understand. Is that your impression?
Correct. It's not my impression. They are pushing it. As soon as Biden came in, he has the head of the Strategic Command is a guy named Admiral Charles Richard. Charles Richard has said explicitly that nuclear war has been moved from unlikely to likely. They are pushing it.
Well,
it's
even
exceedingly dangerous. And
today, I don't know if you saw in the news that Putin went to a funeral, and with him he brought the nuclear box. The box was with him just in case. I mean, this is scary. This is scary stuff. And it almost seems. Go ahead.
The United States has made itself a very untrustworthy partner. We're a terrible ally. We tell nations, don't work with China, don't work with Russia. And then what do they get from us? They get their teeth kicked in and their eyes poked out. I mean, why should anybody work with us? Look at Haiti. We told Haiti, don't work with China. You have to keep, even though we recognize China, we told Haiti they had to recognize Taiwan. Well, China had an entire plan to fully modernize and rebuild Port-au-Prince from top to bottom. They would have made Haiti earthquake and hurricane proof. So Haiti does not have that. They are starving there right now, right? And that's what people get for working with the United States. We don't, I mean, it's really a terrible thing. It's not what our founding fathers intended at all. And to go back to Trump, remember.
What happens, Diane, from my understanding, is we have certain people in power, a certain party in power. They make a promise, and then a new regime comes in, and they just trash everything. So we're a very unreliable country, right?
Yeah, and it's not just a regime, except with the exception of some of the things Trump tried to do. It's sort of been a continuous thread of escalation against Russia and China. And in fact, Lyndon LaRouche warned in 2011, remember when Gaddafi was very brutally assassinated, right? Another one of our allies, another ally. He got rid of all his nuclear weapons. He was working with us, and we allow him to be dragged through the streets and killed. And Hillary gloated over that. Well, LaRouche warned, he said, this is not about Libya. He said, this is about creating the surrounding Russia and going to war with Russia. Why? Because the City of London and Wall Street are bankrupt. And as you know, we've been printing money since 2008, really since 1971, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold reserve system. We have this giant bubble of fictitious capital, which is long overdue. It's quadrillions of dollars. And LaRouche said what they're doing is they're going for war with Russia because that will crash the economic system. And then these financiers can write off their debt. So people have heard the term the Great Reset.
Yes.
The Green New Deal. Yes. Well, what is this about? This is about shutting down fossil fuels, shutting down food production, completely collapsing the means of human existence, creating a total crisis. And then these bankers who brag about having $140 trillion at their disposal get to run the world. And they're positioning themselves for a crash. I mean, that's why Bill Gates is buying up all the farmland and BlackRock is buying up all the houses. They're positioning themselves for a crash. Now, Russia, just as they are going to win the war against Ukraine because they obviously have more firepower and they've got professional military, they're also right now winning the war economically. You know, they've pegged the ruble to gold. So the ruble has completely rebounded. The ruble is at the same level it was before Biden started the latest round of sanctions.
Now, Diane, I have a video you shared with me. A 1 minute video with you. It's actually 2 minutes, but I want to just show 1 minute of it, if you don't mind, of you and Chuck Schumer. And just give me a second here.
That's fine.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, I have to interrupt. You are right when you said you're a killer. We have this disaster in Afghanistan, which is a result I have a speech. I'm running for Senate against you because of your policies. Because after 9/11, you voted to invade. We are doing a political thing. We killed 1 million people in Iraq. My sister was in Iraq.
Here come the handlers.
No,
Here come the
he
handlers.
is a killer. This is a terrible prosecution.
Now, the video goes on, but I just want to show. I thought that was great. You have some real chutzpah there, Diane. But you know what? We need people like you because that's what the left does. They intimidate people. The only difference between you and the left is that they have the media on their side. We've been talking about. We got 12 minutes left. We've been talking about international affairs. I want to kind of change it and talk about domestic stuff. While we're talking, I am going to show you. I want to show you your website and what you're doing there and what you're running for Senate. So I do want to talk about domestic pieces. Where are you? I see that I can see clearly today, based upon what you're talking about, that you're a conservative, right? Would you say that? At least a physical.
I think by today's definition, you could say that. That's fair.
Okay. And where do you stand on basic issues like gun control, abortion, financial security, all the bread and butter topics that both now, because you're in the middle, you're independent, you're not a Democrat. We know what they stand for. They're all the pro stuff. We know what the Republicans. So where do you stand on the domestic issues?
Well, things people ask about, I support the Second Amendment. I would generally be considered pro-life. But the question is, how do you really protect these rights? I mean, our nation says the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I want to emphatically say it's happiness, not pleasure.
Thank
but
you.
What is a system that allows you to have these rights? And that means you have to have an economy. And I brought up the Nixon taking the dollar off the gold reserve system in '71, because that was a terrible turning point, which Mr. LaRouche actually forecast in the '60s. The term was new in the United States, the post-industrial era. That was a novel idea that somehow we no longer needed industry, we no longer needed agriculture, everyone was going to be in services and we were all going to be consumers.
I remember that, and I was thinking, that makes no sense. So, but then all the manufacturing went overseas as soon as they said that.
Right, exactly. It does make no sense. And we had a very snooty, this is where the liberals come from, which is if you do work with your hands, if you're blue collar, that's somehow lower level, people look down on that. And if you could figure out how to snort cocaine and rip people off on Wall Street, you were considered a genius. You know, so the whole morality was ripped out of the American culture. Think about the Earth Day. Was that 69 or 70, the first Earth Day? Think about Woodstock. So everything was about personal pleasure.
Well, I want to comment. I want to comment on that because you are on a Christian station. We are Christian. Okay. We give everybody a chance to speak. You know, we are pro-life. We're small government. We would like. We want personal responsibility. It's God, not gov. You know, it wasn't until the Great Depression that even churches were responsible for the widows and the orphans up until the Great Depression. Then we looked to the government to solve the problem. Now they've gotten so gigantic. So as a Christian nation, you know, those are the things we're looking for, because one of the founding fathers basically said people are either governed by the Bible or the bayonet, which means that either you have a system where the son of the president is not doing deals with foreign countries, making millions of dollars, not at his own benefit, at his own benefit, not at the benefit of the country. And all the media is not covering it, but Christians should be doing things for the benefit of the country. So go ahead, continue. We've got 8 minutes.
Sure. Okay. Well, I happen to think that what FDR did was very necessary, particularly the Pecora Commission hearings and proving that the economic depression was not caused by poor and middle class people, but was caused by corruption on Wall Street largely. But you remember, and you can think this through, FDR, while he started.
You went, somehow you went.
It worked.
Go ahead, repeat. You said FDR, go from there.
Yeah, and what did we build during that time? Hold on a second. I'm sorry, my phone just went crazy.
Oh, I have you. You have a big event in tomorrow. Meet and greet. Where are you going to be that they can meet you? Running for Senate.
Well, if they're in the Cooperstown, New York area, that's where I'll be, in Cooperstown, Hartwick, at the Black Barn, which
At the Black Barn.
is
Okay.
Yeah, and it's on my website, sareforsenate.com. People can find it
I'm
there.
on your website there, and that's basically where the museum for the Major League Baseball is.
Baseball. Yeah, it's not far from that, exactly. So people can find it. There's an RSVP, a link which people should use. One thing I want to say quickly before we go is that the state of New York, Cuomo slipped something very tricky into the budget.
Which is that if you're an independent voter, if you're not a Democrat or Republican, the number of signatures you need to get on the ballot has been completely arbitrarily tripled. So it was 15,000 in 6 weeks. For me, it's 45,000 in 6 weeks. And it starts April 19th, appropriately enough, on the anniversary of the battle at Lexington and Concord. And we're going to be doing this from April 19th to about May 24th. And I urgently need registered New York voters who would like to volunteer to petition for me. You can sign up on the website.
Where on the website? I'm gonna go. I want to see exactly where. If you want to sign a petition for Diane Sare, where on this website can they go to sign a petition? You need 45,000 signatures.
Where it says volunteer.
Okay,
See where it
volunteer.
says volunteer? You can't sign a petition online. No, that's
Okay.
so you can get on my list and someone will call you back and ask you to circulate a petition. That's where it is.
Sare,
Under
S-A-R-E
volunteer.
for Senate.com, Sare4Senate.com,
Correct.
volunteer. Make sure you go here and you fill this out because we've got to make sure that that Schumer has Schumer gets out of office, basically. Diane, you have a picture here in the background. I got 5 minutes of a nuclear plant. I think this is the nuclear. I just moved from New York 5-6 months ago. I could see this plant from my home. They recently just closed, didn't they?
Indian Point, yes.
Yes.
The last of 3 towers. The first tower closed years ago, but the second 2 towers were operating until 2 years ago, and they provided 25% of the electricity for Manhattan. And that was another Cuomo wingding with Riverkeeper, really disgusting deal, where they shut down tower, reactor number 2, and they just shut reactor number 3. And
Yes,
our
no, I had
genius new
people
governor
there.
Hochul has yanked the. No, it's terrible. We need electricity. Look what happened in Texas with the windmills.
What did Hochul do?
They had
do?
people
What did
dying.
she do? Hochul do?
She just yanked the permit. She just yanked the permit on one of the gas-fired plants that's supposed to be replacing Indian Point. So New Yorkers can look forward to freezing in the dark or roasting in the dark
They're
this
getting rid of
summer.
old gas.
We're not going to have enough electricity.
I have to ask a difficult question,
Right.
and I have to ask this of you, Diane. You're an independent. There's
Okay.
a Republican running. I don't know who that person is. I'm concerned. You say that people are tired of what the Democrats are doing, and there's a groundswell of interest in getting rid of a lot of Republicans. He would be key because he's the minority leader. How could you win, or are you going to split the vote?
No, there's no, first of all, that's presuming you even have free and fair elections, which is a big presumption in this day and age.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
hate to say. So first of all, that's presuming that. Second of all, there's a deal between the Republican and Democratic Party to keep Schumer in there. They never run anyone's theory. He's been there 42 years.
Well, he's
So
only
they're
been in the
running
Senate,
Joe
not
Pinion.
he hasn't
That's
been in, he hasn't been in the Senate 42 years.
He's been in DC.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. He's been in DC. The Senate will be just a short 24 years.
Did you try to get
I mean,
the Republican?
That's enough time to raise an act.
Did you try to get the Republican?
I considered it. But they told me they were going to nominate Pinion way back. They had it locked up. This stuff is all rigged. So they want a guy with zero. Go to Pinion's website. There's no platform whatsoever. He won't offend anyone. He's not going to cause any trouble. And they can pretend they have a candidate. But the intention is to abide by the deal, the gentleman's agreement, which is to get Schumer back in there. And I don't agree to abide by that. I think he's terrible for the country and he should be thrown out. Are you okay?
Keep on talking. Go ahead.
You know, frankly, Schumer should be brought up on charges, maybe even treason. What he did in Russiagate was outrageous. It put us in danger of a war with a nation which really should be an ally. People might remember when 9/11 occurred, the first foreign head of state to call Bush was Putin. And Putin said, we will collaborate with you. We're taking down all of our automatic launch. We understand you're going to have to do some things. Russia is not an enemy of the United States. They backed up Abraham Lincoln in the Civil War. People don't know that. The Russians sent the Navy to New York to join on the side of the Union if the British joined on the side of the Confederacy. We were allies in defeating Adolf Hitler. They lost 27 million people in that war. So to take a powerful nation that has been a great ally of the United States and turn it into an enemy is a real act against the interests of the United States.
We're here with Diane Sare, S-A-R-E. We hardly broke the surface. I wanted to talk about your musical background, but there's so many different things. Go to Diane Sare for Senate on her website. Her website is Sare, S-A-R-E for Senate, running against Chuck Schumer. And Diane, we'd love to have you back as things go on. We appreciate you being here, and we want to thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, we're now on to a second part of our show, and we're off the air here. And hey, Diane, we're off the air, and I just wanted to say we're just on the YouTube.